Pandas versus Galactic Empire. Round 1, a best of 1 match between these two teams in the Star Battle X tournament. And I have the leader, the text-based leader of the Pandas here in chat, Curtis, but he's not on mic. But I'll go ahead and say the comp. So from Greater Ninja's team, Galactic Empire, we have Thunder going to Laser, and that's very curious. Ninja going Nova, Thomas going Range Missiles, ZDM going 3-4, 3 on the shields and 4 on the missiles in this case. Rammstein going Imp, and Phoenix going Feedback. From the Pandas, we have Silver Wolf going 2 Locusts, Davila going 5 Rockets, Boomer going 4-3, Black Magic going Imp, Alpha going 5 Missiles, and Curtis going Nova. So we're Nova versus Nova, VR versus VR, Imp Raven versus Imp Raven, 3-4 Colossus versus 3-4 Colossus, Rocket Frigate versus Robert Frigate, and we even have BC versus BC. So what is the difference? It's Arbiter versus what is the other difference? What does blue team have that red team does not? Ah, Leviathan. So blue team has a Leviathan, red team has an Arbiter. That is the core difference of this composition. Other than that, it is, aside from that one difference, it is a mirror matchup. And just saying it like that, my inclination is that from the get-go, I actually would have slightly preferred Galactic Empire's composition here, because I tend to like Arb Raven. But there is a lot of control. I think there definitely is, you know, there's a lot of teams that have been going Raven BC as kind of the primary basis of the control, anticipating primarily Terran ships. You know, my concern always is with going only Raven BC for energy denial and control is that you risk you risk with having these pretty much just unstoppable Leviathans and Overlords. But since the red team does not have a Leviathan or an Overlord, that's actually not an issue. So the composition ended up working out pretty well for the blue team, for the Pandas here. But there's still the fact that the Arbiter will offer a lot of forms of control if the game gets going really long. But since this is a 15-minute game, as we can see unfortunately from the timer, I should have hid that earlier so it wouldn't be so obvious that this was a fast game. But it does seem like, due to the length of this game, it will end up favoring the more aggressive, stronger, contain-oriented build of the Pandas. Yeah, red team is letting them hold this contain for a really long time, getting a 300 farm lead here. They haven't really gone back in a very organized fashion, and they've been taking just a lot of damage all over the place, so most of their ships will have to heal once they get back. And so this 300 farm lead is going to become a 400 farm lead, and this is kind of a bad place to be in the early part of a matchup, because you can take a 200 farm hit in the early part of the game and still recover it really well. But yeah, I think that, you know, it's not just that. It's also it's also the opening, right? Thunder going this 2 laser opening, I think did not really help them almost at all. And so they ended up being way down on farm because they don't have enough ships dealing any sort of damage. You know, like, you think of their entire composition, and the only ones capable of dealing damage are Thomas and ZDM. Everything else is just sort of decorative. Whereas, you know, Silver Wolf was going to be putting out a lot more damage early on, which resulted in this really solid long contain. Now they are going to get back at least some of the farm here. you know, they're going to get back up to 1,000, but they really have to be very careful on when they go back here, because just the sheer amount of money that Pandas came back with means that they are going to have more speed than the red team. So red team has to go back in this situation before the blue team comes out, and they're going to get caught here. This is going to be one reason it's a short game. If they could lose a ship just right here on the first, well, essentially the second back. Oh, the siege creep might keep them, but if they overcommit to holding the siege creep, that could be a really good way to die. Raven's going to take some missiles, but they don't have... Davila doesn't have his rockets on the Raven, so that would have been a lot of threat to kill. Silver is getting corruption onto Thomas, but I'm not sure how well Silver will be able to hold his aggression here, taking missiles from Theory. Well, I mean, but there's so little damage from the red team that he can stay there all day. It's not a problem. Ooh, ZDM is taking beam, and he just melts. Curtis doesn't even have charge. He doesn't even have beam upgrades. But ZDM just melted anyway. And yeah, they had a bad opening. They had bad lane control. They didn't go back together when they got pushed back. They didn't come out strong. And then they kind of got steamrolled when the well-fed team came back out with speed and strength and upgrades. I mean, so... this feels like it's already over. But, you know, it's still 6 vs 5. It's still theoretically possible to come back. But it's kind of a mess. This is one of those things where you wonder, you know, I mean, it was 6 a.m. for me. Maybe some of the people on this team were not quite yet awake. Could be that they still needed some more caffeine to really get in. But yeah, this is pretty over. I'm surprised it's the last 5 minutes after this. They could just leave now. Well, I mean, Greater is pretty... I mean, Phoenix and Greater have played a lot. ZDM has played a fair amount. Rammstein is a really solid IH player, and Thomas has been learning a lot really fast. Thunder, I'm not so sure on. I don't think I've played with him so much. And I know Thomas is still kind of learning, but... you know, I think they had a core base of, like, 4 solid players. But they were just kind of lacking a little bit of coordination in this particular matchup. And they end up dying really, really fast. But Pandas played good, and therefore they won with the more aggressive composition. It's still good to think about.